Another edition of Riding Home. Dean Legge, Dylan Webber. Dylan, the news yesterday, Jake Fromm leaving to go to the NFL. Matt DeBerry and I talked about that yesterday. This strange, I don't even know how to describe it, situation with Cade Mays being in the portal, likely heading to Tennessee, according to ESPN's reporting. Yesterday was not a good day for Georgia's offense as it relates to the 2020 season. Your initial reaction to both of those things, and then we'll kind of take it from there.
Well, I guess like you said, it's just a weird time because I don't even know what to expect at this point. We talked this whole last season. It was talk about inexperienced receivers, but now you just have even bigger question marks this upcoming season with the offensive line, really, and quarterback.
Quarterback probably more than the offensive line. I mean, the offensive line can still return Justin Schaefer, Ben Cleveland, Jamari Saylor, and Trey Hill. Uh,
But the question now becomes: you had your left tackle. Cade Mays was going to be the left
that's what
tackle,
it looked. Yeah, that's what it looked like to me.
and now there's a lot of question marks there. I mean, who do you
I think
play?
it will probably be Jamari if I had to guess. No, I
Which
don't.
is it's
I don't
kind of
know.
weird because coming out of high school, everyone just assumed he was going to be a guard, and still kind of looks more like a
Yeah,
guard than a tackle.
he looks more like a guard, that's for sure. But what I just I've gotten to the point now, 4 years into this, that I don't doubt Kirby's ability to. Well, what pops into my head is get what he wants.
Yeah,
I mean, I've just we're not sycophants for Kirby Smart here. If you want that, there's other websites that do a really good job of saying that all he does is good. We try to be a little bit more realistic about what how Kirby does and so forth. The program at Georgia, that goes for Tom Crean as well, and Greg McGarity, and whoever it is. But I just you can't tell me he didn't know something was happening there with Cade Mays. That you'd rather have Cade Mays than not have him, but at the same time, you know, when has Kirby been caught with his pants down as far as everything's concerned? I mean, I don't know. Jamari's play. I mean, he started at right tackle. He'll probably start at left tackle now. Kenley leaving was a little bit of a subscribe. It was a little bit of a surprise to me, but there's a lot of things you can still do. If Clay Webb is a legitimate center, then you put him at center. You put Trey Hill at one of the guards, left or right. Warren Erickson would be another guard, apparently. Jamari would be your left tackle, and your right tackle could be, in theory, could be Ben Cleveland, if he comes back and survives the academic situation. So I'm not sure I'm as in much of a panic as everybody else is, but it's not the ideal situation. I mean, yesterday was not a good day for the offense. And one thing too, and I'll toss it back to you. It kind of can't be both things though. It can't be that life can't go on without Jake Fromm, as the fan base sort of, or the vocal part of the fan base is right now, and yet the vocal part of the fan base from the South Carolina game on was, "What's the deal with this guy? He sucks." I mean, it can't be both. So it's probably somewhere in the middle, and they're just going to have to go without a guy who has any experience.
I think people wanted better from Jake Fromm, but I think as the season ended, especially in the Sugar Bowl, people realized that Georgia's best odds were in Jake Fromm's hands for next year. They weren't going to be in no disrespect to these guys, but they're not with Stetson Bennett or Carson Beck. Georgia's best chances at a national championship with what they had on the roster was going to be Jake Fromm, and I think people don't understand that.
I think that's true, and I think that if they get a transfer in, there's I'm no longer a prisoner of, hey, something has to be accomplished this way. I've seen Oklahoma, Ohio State, Oklahoma in particular, get a quarterback who just really wasn't so hot at Alabama and get to the playoff. Now they got bitched by LSU, but there's any number of ways to get to the playoff and take it from there. So I'm a little more bullish on 2020, I think, than most people are, because I realize that as good as this offensive line was this past year, the main person you're losing is not Cade Mays. It's Andrew Thomas.
Yeah.
That was the real problem there. Losing Isaiah, that hurts for sure. But the other thing is, too, I remember thinking in 2004 after David Green, David Pollock left, the malaise in that offseason couldn't have been more severe because people thought the program was over. They were like, well, it was David and David. And DJ Shockley looked horrible the last time we saw him play. That was against Georgia Tech in the weather. You can't know what the future will be. I know they're with unknowns. We do have a very significant known, though, and that's the defense, and they basically all came back.
Well, and one thing we do know is that there's talent on this team.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe not experience. In defense, we know that for sure. That's a no question. But offense, too. There's plenty of talent on the offensive side. It's just experience at this point that they're lacking.
The other thing, too, I mean, Georgia played in a national championship game with young players all over the field. I mean, when you was talking about the quarterback was a freshman, the right tackle was a freshman. DeAndre Swift played a lot at times, not in the national championship game necessarily, but you can do it with freshmen. It just can't be that your entire team is dominated by freshmen. That's going to be a problem. I don't know who the starting quarterback's going to be. I'm not going to get in that ball game. I have no clue. I've seen Stetson. I've seen Beck live. I've not seen Mathis live because he's been banged up with the head deal for a while. The kid from Wake Forest who possibly could come in. The kid from Stanford. Those guys have experience as starting quarterbacks, not in the SEC, but they have experience as starting quarterbacks. I mean, it's something you can navigate. Jake Fromm came off the bench and guided them to a national championship game and did so without a lot of, without any experience, frankly. I mean, I'm looking at this national championship game team, Andrew Thomas, Ben Cleveland, those guys were first-year starters. Jake Fromm, first-year starter. Kendall Baker was a starting offensive lineman in the national championship game.
I forget about that.
Kendall Baker. And a lot of, these teams, I'm just looking, the roster coming back next year is more gifted everywhere, probably except quarterback. I mean, maybe with the exception of Roquan, Terry Godwin and Javon Wims, Riley Ridley. I mean, are they better than Pickens?
It's hard to say. I mean,
I would say no.
Javon, they don't look as such, but we got to remember Riley Ridley, Javon Wims. Those guys are NFL receivers. Right now.
Well, and there were more of them, and the question is, will Rosemary, Burton, and Smith come in, and Blaylock come back, and Robertson? I mean, you don't have there's no shortage of wide receivers all of a sudden. Now, running back, I do think it was better. You had Nick and you had Sony. That's hard to deal with.
You had two,
no question. I mean,
NFL,
two
first round, quality guys,
ballers. No question, the left tackle will be better. Ben Cleveland, could still be back. Jake Fromm, I think you're going to go backwards at quarterback. The left tackle, well, of course, the right tackle was Andrew Thomas. The left tackle was Isaiah Wynn. Those will not be better. The guards, in theory, should be better. I mean, you're talking about the return of Ben Cleveland as a senior and what should happen. And then with Kendall Baker, he's getting replaced by,
with Justin Schaefer.
Yeah, it could be Justin. It could be Warren Erickson. They're not out of options in these places, but it's the defense where it's pretty evident that they're better. Dominique Sanders was a good player. I'm not sure he would start now at Georgia. I don't know. DeAndre Baker, of course, was good, but then everybody else, John Atkins, Roquan was good. Bellamy, Carter, Tyler Clark, David Marshall, Malcolm Parrish, J.R. Reed, Aaron Davis. The defense next year will be better than that. And
that's saying a lot. That really is saying a lot because that defense is also filled with studs. That 2017 team?
It was, yeah. Roquan was
a monster.
Right. He was a difference maker. but in terms of individual people on here, it would probably be Roquan and DeAndre. They're starting two guys in the back that were either in that on that team that were either walk-ons or transfers. I mean, J.R. Reed and Aaron Davis. Those were not guys a lot of people pursued. Dominique Sanders picked Georgia over Central Florida. So in terms of actual straight-up talent, everyone has to deal with rollover of talent. That happens. I mean, look at Alabama.
That's just football.
Yeah, I mean, do you think Alabama's sitting there going, hey, we're comfortable with what we're at quarterback? They might be more comfortable than they were had the kid never played, but the people are acting like that position is not settled. And I don't know.
I don't think they might be they're more secure than Georgia is right now, I guess but I don't think by much. I don't think Mac Jones is by any means some sort of huge difference maker.
You don't have to be. I mean, Tua Tagovailoa was a difference maker. He never won the national championship as a starting quarterback. It's not just the quarterback. If it were just the quarterback, you would see Teddy. What's the guy's name that was at Louisville? I mean, you have to have more than just the quarterback. And the people that I know that are in the SEC that are not at Georgia, their thing has always been Jake Fromm is a very good quarterback, but what makes him a very good quarterback is everything surrounding him. And that's been their position for a long time. I think that the decision to leave, I don't think it's a simple one. I don't think it's black or white. There's a lot of gray there. I mean, if he comes back, does he improve his draft stock?
It could go either way. If he had anything close to a season he had this year, then he probably wouldn't get drafted.
I think that's true. Or at least it would be in be fifth, sixth, seventh round. You could also come back next year and he could be the number 3 guy.
And that's at best because he's not being.
He's not going to be the number 1 or 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
And those are two teams. Clemson, as good as they are, they would not be playing for the national championship without Trevor Lawrence. Period. They just wouldn't be. I mean, they wouldn't have beaten Ohio State. I don't know. I'm assuming they would have won all the other games they played.
And LSU wouldn't be.
LSU wouldn't be there either. But I almost, I hesitate to say one team is better than the other. I mean, I think LSU is more talented, generally speaking, than Clemson, which is really, Clemson has some stars. But on the whole, LSU has a pretty deep team, and they have developed guys. But back to the Cade Mays thing, it is strange, is it not? Am I going crazy here?
Which part of it? There's a lot of weird. My biggest question, besides the thing with his dad, that's still just like what?
Yeah.
But the thing that confuses me the most is Cade Mays next year will likely be a first-round pick, bearing injury. What he was at, if he came back, played left tackle at Georgia, I think he would.
I don't know if he would be a first-round pick, but he would be a top, 60. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
To go to Tennessee or just transfer anywhere, to say you got to sit out a year and then play football.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
I mean, there are no rules anymore.
Yeah. But I guess I'm just comparing it to Luke Ford. It's like if Luke Ford
was the only guy that got jammed, man. I mean, everybody. I don't get that at all. But everybody else seemed to transfer and play.
Well, yeah, he had one of the best reasons compared to a guy like Tate Martell,
who didn't even play.
Yeah. So he's got to leave and he's got to fight that and possibly sit out a year. Maybe not. Yeah. We'll see. But I don't know. It doesn't seem worth it to me if I was in those shoes. But then again, we don't know all the details. There could be something completely different, and so I don't want to say he's wrong for that. But it does seem odd.
Well, I don't know what's wrong or right, but it's very strange to transfer to an in-division rival. I don't. That doesn't.
But it's
if I were Georgia, I would block it all I could.
Yeah, I would agree.
Period. I mean, there's no explanation for this. Unless there's something going, there's no explanation that I am aware of for this. I mean, if the kid is unhappy, that's not the same thing as just saying, oh, well, Mac Jones can come be the quarterback at Georgia. I mean, give me a break with this stuff. I mean, I look, the NCAA is not good. There's nothing good about the NCAA in many ways, and I say that as a person who is an NCAA student athlete, as someone who served on the board of an NCAA school for almost 10 years. And the NCAA gets a lot of things wrong, and this particular rule, it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, what was the explanation? And I legitimately do not harbor ill will towards Justin at all. But what was the explanation for him leaving Georgia? That like, I mean, and then he just goes and plays at Ohio State. Okay, well, if that's what it is, that's fine, because that's going to a different conference. This isn't even going to a different conference. This is going to another institution
This
inside your division.
yeah,
Georgia,
we're not even talking the other side of
no, Georgia and Tennessee are in a cartel.
they play each other every single year.
They are making money left and right, and there's got to be some rules. I mean, there are rules in the mob. You would think that in these cartels that the SEC and the ACC and Big 12 have, I mean, that he's not transferring as a grad student. He's just transferring. And it's just, I don't know the kid, and I don't have a single thing bad to say about the kid. If I've said something bad, maybe you'll remind me. I don't know. But
No,
this process makes no sense. And it's just basically all that's going on now is if someone, I mean, I'm not accusing Jeremy of doing this, but if someone at Vanderbilt wants Jake Fromm to transfer there and play his final year, apparently that's completely kosher now. That's what it feels like.
yeah, the rules of transferring, and especially with quarterbacks, it seemed like with
Oh yeah,
last year,
yeah.
it seems very much more lackadaisical and just kind of whatever you want to do as long as you present a half-baked idea, then it seems like you can get that waiver. Except once again, in the case of Luke Ford, where it's just you literally look at it and you're just like, what the hell? Like
Yeah, that's the
you
one that, I mean, Luke Ford's grandparents were. I mean, that. Go ahead, explain that situation.
well he explained it to us after the Sugar Bowl last year. He said he wanted to play in front of his grandpa, who was the one who got him into football and was in rough shape. Couldn't travel to these games in Athens or anywhere in the South. So he wanted to go back to Illinois, not a football powerhouse by any means,
No.
because he wanted to play in front of his grandpa. And the NCAA said, haha, too bad. Like, you kidding me, man?
Yeah, it's not. If it were just wide open, you can transfer. That'd be one thing. But there's no sort of, I don't know. Just we got to have actual rules here. I mean, what are the rules? But
Who knows, man?
but the thing, but get back to it though. Um, at what stage has Kirby Smart not gotten what he wanted? I mean, you look at 2016. Who did he bring in? Uh, Mo Smith, NFL football player, transfer from Alabama. 2017, the punter, Cameron Zot. Can you pronounce it for me? What was
Wh-
the
Who, sorry?
the punter in 2017, whose last name I have a hard time pronouncing?
Cameron Nislik or Cam Nislik?
That's right. 2018 transfer that came in. I don't know if I can remember. 2019, Wolf
Yeah.
and Cager. I mean, he has consistently gotten guys from the portal or whatever it's called, the transfer market. When they went out and got Isaiah number 25, and then he turned into number 16. I can't remember his name. Little gadget, little joystick guy. They went out and got him, and I mean, he didn't do a lot at Georgia, but he was functional in the passing game at times. He was like a wiggly little guy, and they went out and got him. They're
Yeah.
not gonna leave anything unturned
And
here.
there's a lot of good possibilities out there for quarterback.
Well, I just think that the one thing I would stress here is that there's already on our message board dogpost.com, you're already seeing people say, "Hey, I think it's going to be Beck. I think that, this, that, and the other. I just, I don't know. But the expectation that Carson is going to come in and, A, win the job, but B, play well enough to get them to the playoff, that's putting a lot on him. The opposite of that is, well, hey, look, he won the state championship in the largest classification in Florida, and they were zinging the ball all over the place. So my thing is the expectation level has got to be realistic here. A transfer would probably get them closer to the playoff if you just take a step back. But there's no telling, Dylan, who the transfer would be, A. B, if they would be the starter the entire time. There's no way to do this. I mean, look at the way Clemson won the national championship last year by starting a guy who was just not good, getting halfway through the season and turning it over to the guy that they thought was special. Then they win the national championship. Georgia, 2017. Kid they think gets special, hurt the first game. Kid that no one really suspected gets in the national championship game, loses to a team where they thought the guy coming back was the guy. He gets replaced in the middle of the game by a guy who no one knows really who he is nationally. He makes a miracle throw, and all of a sudden, 2 years later, he's a first-round draft pick probably. There are no straight paths in this thing. They just don't exist. So, we can't know. I mean, and dude, it looks like this year a guy that really wasn't that great in 2018, good but not great. This guy's lighting the world on fire. And what's changed? I guess the coordinator.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't see it coming sometimes. Sometimes you can. But if we could all see it coming, Clemson and Alabama would be playing for the national championship, not Clemson and LSU. So that's all I got to say about that. Further comments, Dylan, about this wild week at Georgia so far? I mean, think about it, man. In 7-day span, won the Sugar Bowl, got two 5-star guys committed to them and signed. This is not football, but won a huge game at Memphis, number 9 Memphis for the basketball program, which sends them on the path to the NCAA tournament. And then you have Jake Fromm turning pro, Robert Beal going into the portal and then getting out. He's a survivor. Then you have this wild stuff with Cade Mays. This has just been a very busy week.
And it's probably not going to slow down. It might, but it's big stuff is going to continue to happen.
No question. That's why you need to stay tuned. Dogpost.com. Tomorrow we've got the recruiting report here on YouTube and iTunes and wherever else you're listening to us. Stay tuned to Dogpost. Make sure you click to subscribe. Dylan, thanks for your help. We'll see you tomorrow over on Dogpost.